Okay, so to me, there are three major roads or situations that the Yankees have to negotiate. There are three major questions they have to ask themselves. And not only for the deadline that's coming up next month, but for the near future and the far future. And I want to go over them, and because I think they're relevant, I think they're important. Okay, and now here we go. Number one, they need to decide what to do with the left-handed bat. It's clear that they need a left-handed bat. Okay, they're way too right-handed, and so you got to figure out what's available out there. We know Ketel Marte is available. He's a switch hitter. Brian Reynolds, he hasn't been made available, but he's a guy I would be looking at immediately. Joey Gallo's another one from Texas, but to me he strikes out too much, and he's not as versatile as somebody like a Ketel Marte or a Brian Reynolds or even an Adam Frazier from the Pirates also. So those are the guys that kind of stand out to me. Starling Marte's a right-handed hitter. He's older. He's going to cost a ton. So I don't know why they're even considering him. But even though he's a good hitter. But so and another question I would be asking is, do any of these guys, or particularly the left-handed batters, like a Gallo, or even an Adam Frazier, do they represent number one is what's the price? What's it going to cost? To me, Reynolds and Marte are going to cost the most. Okay. Hands down, and they should. They're young, they're controllable, free agent in 2025 and 2026. Very versatile, athletic. They don't strike out a ton. Adam Frazier to me is number three. He also doesn't strike out a ton. He's a switch hitter. He's versatile, but he's also 31. And Gallo is younger. He's 27, but he only has another year of control, and he's only a lefty. He also strikes out way too much. So the Yankees need somebody who strikes out less. Okay. And to me, Gallo doesn't make as much sense as either one of those guys. In order, to me, I have Marte, then Reynolds, then Frazier, then Gallo. Now, the other question I ask is, one, who can they realistically get of these guys, of these four? What's the price going to be? And which one of them are significant upgrades over Rougned Odor? Now, to me, some people might be asking, what? Rougned Odor? What the Well, let me give you my logic, okay? Number one, Rougned Odor is, the Yankees are paying like 12 cents for him. Okay, the Texas Rangers are eating 99.5% of his contract. So, does it make sense to me? Right off the bat, Gallo's off the list. Right off the bat, Frazier's 1 foot out of the list, leaving the other two guys. Now, if you can't get one of those, if it's known that we can't get one, then we put Frazier in place of that one. And to me, the most logical two are probably Frazier and Ketel Marte, because it's been known that they're probably likely available. So those two guys to me represent an upgrade over Odor. Not as much Frazier as Ketel, but the reason why I say that is because we're not paying nothing for Odor, so it doesn't make sense to bring in at least two of those guys over Odor, pay the money it's going to cost in terms of salary, potentially put them over the threshold, which Hal Steinbrenner has not said he's willing to go over, even though Brian Cashman has already said they're going to be buyers. But buyers of what? Are they buying generic stuff? Are they buying discounted stuff? Or are they buying premium stuff? We don't know. Okay? And do they have the prospects and players who can offset some of that salary to still keep them under the threshold if they need to do that? So that's why Odor seems to me a valuable piece. Yeah, doesn't have sexy stats, but he comes up with clutch hits. And he's one of the few lefty bats they have. So to me, Odor and Tyler Wade are essentially the two lefties, aside from Brett Gardner. But Brett Gardner is to me, I get the sentimental value keeping him, and he does have some value in terms of a defensive play. But to me, at this point, Tyler Wade represents an upgrade over Brett Gardner. Not as much on the bat, but on the speed end and the defensive end. And he's just a little bit faster now, and he can just run a little bit more. Neither one of them is a great hitter now, but there's somebody else to me that represents an upgrade over both of them. That's in the farm. So, and I'll go over that in a second. So that's the one question, okay? Do these guys represent an upgrade over Rougned Odor? Because Rougned Odor, to me, is still a better hitter than Tyler Wade. So I asked that question about Odor, not Wade. Wade, to me, is an easy swap out, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So that's question number one. Question number two, okay? Do they keep Odor, or do they keep Clint Frazier and Tyler Wade, of those three guys, or do they move them in trades for pitching or an offensive piece? Designate, DFA one of them, but I don't see the point in DFAing any of these guys because I think they can get something from them in a trade. I'd rather get a mediocre prospect than DFA them and get a nothing. So, and again, do they give these guys away, or do they come, or they give some of their young guys a shot if they do give these guys away. And two guys stand out to me. Number one, Trey Ambergay. I know they'd give Chris Gittins a shot, and he's got a bat, but he's an infielder. We're talking about outfielders now and guys who play multiple positions, okay? So Trey Ambergay, he's raking in AAA. He's been raking for a while, okay? And the other guy you may not have heard of is Hoi-Jun Park. Okay, he's from Korea. But I compare him to Tyler Wade. He's got the intangibles and the speed and the outfield versatility that Tyler Wade provides, but he's got a better bat. So to me, he goes above Tyler Wade. And he's also raking in AAA. Okay, both of these guys are in AAA, and they're playing well. So they're easy swap outs for me. You can swap out. You can send down Clint Frazier until he gets things right and call up Ambergay. You can send down Wade and call up Hoi-Jun Park. Give some of these young guys a shot. And do these young guys represent upgrades over guys they're considering trading for? Because I'm not going to trade for these guys if I can have upgrades with these two guys. I'm going to trade my pieces for pitching if that's the case. So do they give these guys a shot now and find out whether they have what they need before the deadline? Because, again, this is where some of the gamesmanship comes into play with GMs. Some GMs, and I said this recently in other videos, and I talked about it in a video about what the Mets should do, okay, recently as well. But GMs will say, I want this guy. I'm going to get this guy just because I don't want the other teams in my division to get him. Even though they may not need him, they'll still do it. The Yankees did it with Jose Contreras a bunch of years ago. And just so that the Boston Red Sox wouldn't get him. Theo Epstein flipped out. He threw a chair through a window. Then he started calling him the Evil Empire. Wound up not really working for the Yankees, but that's the gamesmanship. They'll get guys so that the other teams in their division won't get them. But again, these guys, and Adam Frazier can go to Tampa Bay, can go to Boston, can even go to Toronto. So could a Brian Reynolds. So could a Gallo. So could a Ketel Marte. And they'll benefit any of these teams. So the Yankees need to be proactive. And being proactive, either trading for them or call up some of these young guys to see whether they still need to trade for them after calling these guys up. Is the need for the trade still there? So those are two guys, that's question number 2. Those two guys are in there. And how does it affect the other scenario? Number 3, is the starting pitching market. I mean, is there any starting pitching worth going over the threshold? And I've already said, unless Hal gives the green light, there's no threshold, surpass. It's not for surpassing the threshold. So are any of them worth going over the threshold for? And are they realistically gettable? Okay. Or are there second-tier guys that they can get that might still represent an upgrade? The Yankees are diminished right now. Kluber's still out. Severino's out. I mean, Taillon, with the exception of the other day, has been relatively unreliable. So, and Montgomery's doing okay, but they still need more starting pitching. All right? And need more than Gerrit Cole. So, and the layer question is, again, not only who they can realistically bring in, but are they an upgrade over some of these young guys like Davy Garcia? I know he's been struggling. Clark Schmidt, who's got a higher ceiling, but he's been hurt. But guys like Luis Gil, Luis Medina, young power arms. Albert Abreu, young power arm. He's had control issues, but he's also had a taste in the major leagues already. So he's had a cup of coffee, so he knows what it's like. But are any of these guys an upgrade over those young kids? Now, I broke it up into 2 groups. Number 1, Max Scherzer, Luis Castillo from the Reds, Jose Barrios from the Twins, and German Marquez from the Rockies. Those guys are clearly upgrades. Those guys are obviously clearly going to cost a lot in terms of prospect and salary. Now, Scherzer's the most dominant, obviously, so he'll probably cost the most up front, but it's half a year of Scherzer versus years and years of these other guys. All right? Some of these guys are controlled until 2024, 2025. Barrios, 2023, I think. I think it's Marquez, 2025. I think Castillo, 2024. So those guys have years of control, but they're also going to get them over the threshold. So those guys are worth the time, yes, and worth the money, yes, but will they get the green light? I don't know. Secondly, Max Scherzer, he has $105 million in deferred money, and I haven't seen anything in writing yet that says the team that acquires him is going to be on the hook for that money. That's obviously something they're going to have to look into, because there's no way in the hell I would bring in Scherzer for half a season or extend him another season or 2 for probably $25 million a year and give him another $100 in deferred money. That's deferred money that the Nationals promised him for his 7 years of performance. So that should be on the hook for the Nationals no matter what happens. So, and I don't think the Yankees would ever do that anyway. I don't think any team in their right mind would assume all this deferred money for a year or a year and a half of service from anybody. Okay? But crazier things have happened. So that's the list. But the other list is, like a Danny Duffy from the Royals or a John Gray from the Rockies. Do those guys represent an upgrade over the young kids that I mentioned? Okay? Because Yankees could probably get both of them, honestly. and still stay under the threshold if they offset them with a couple of low salaries. So will the Yankees get one of them? Maybe. Two of them unlikely, but did these guys, again, do we use some of our prospects and major league players for guys like that? Probably not. And that's when I would be putting a real big package together for a Ketel Marte or a Brian Reynolds. Or can they get, realistically, a Marquez, right? Or, or a Marquez and a Daniel Bard, another elite bullpen arm. Or can they get an Adam Frazier and a Rich Rodriguez in a blockbuster package, another an elite relief arm and a lower end utility guy who's still really, really good. Okay, because Brian Reynolds himself is going to cost probably more than Rodriguez and Frazier combined, and it's just reality. So Ketel Marte, or it probably cost equal. So these are the questions to me that I think the Yankees need to ask themselves every day, and I think being proactive about it is a better idea. Do they need to make some of these moves now? Because the fact of the matter is, calling up some of these young guys and gives them a shot, and they give them a shot. If they're productive, then you get them productive for longer than you're getting people that are not productive right now. If you make a trade for a Marte or a Reynolds, you're getting them now instead of 5 weeks later. You're getting more of their production, so it benefits the Yankees. So these are the major questions that I need. That I think if they ask them and they layer them out. And they say, this is the scenario. What if we do this? It affects this. It affects that. They have the pieces. Do they have the pieces to get these ace pitchers? Do they have the pieces to get the lower end guys? Are they willing to move? Or what are they willing to move for these higher offensive prospects? So, because the fact is, if I'm going to give a big prime prospect package for anybody except for Jason Dominguez, the Martian, if I'm including Oswald Peraza, something like that, it's going to be for a Ketel Marte or a German Marquez, a guy, and a Peraza can play shortstop. So when Trevor Story leaves, and he is leaving, he represents a replacement for Trevor Story. So just a thought there. Hate to get rid of him, and that's the other thing. The Yankees going to stick with Gleyber Torres, and he's young and controllable, so probably he still has things to get right. But man, keep in mind, Derek Jeter wasn't elite when he was a rookie either. It took him several years to come into his own as a complete player. Okay. He was good on the offensive end, but defensively he left a lot to be desired. So it took him several years. I know it's kind of a weird comparison, but even elite guys sometimes need a few years to develop. Not all of them, not the Mike Trouts of the world, but Fernando Tatises of the world and the Vlad Guerreros, but some guys do. So, and that's just the way that it is. So I know those factors have to be kept in mind too. I know people want to get rid of Gleyber Torres, but at the end of the day, who are they going to replace him with? Are they going to replace him with Peraza or Corey Seager? Those are the other questions the Yankees have to ask. And if the Yankees bring in an expenditure that's expensive for the next bunch of years, can they get a Corey Seager in the offseason? Can they get a big guy in the offseason? Can they get a Trevor Story, who to me doesn't make sense? If they're going to make any move for a shortstop, it should be for a lefty shortstop. Corey Seager is the only guy I would consider out of all the elite shortstops, free agents. The only guy. He's young, he's lefty, period. And they need more lefties. But these things need to be addressed first, okay? They don't need Corey Seager right now. They can live without Corey Seager. And I don't think the Dodgers are moving him anyway, particularly since they're going to try and double repeat. So, again, those three questions, I'd be asking them, and I'd be asking them every single day, looking at what they have. And let me know if you think they're the right questions as well. What questions would you ask, and how would you kind of lay them out? Because that's the way I would lay them out. So give me your insight either way. If you like stuff like this and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. I appreciate your watching and your time, and I'll talk to you next time.